Welcome to a special crossover episode of Music Rewind. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're bringing you another rock block featuring 5 incredible episodes from Album Archives, the vault of music history. Album Archives is a micro-podcast counting down the top 300 albums of all time, as voted on by you, listeners of the Music Rewind podcast. New 10-minute episodes drop every Monday, covering each album in the countdown. Be sure to subscribe to that show and follow us to the end. And now, on with the show. Let's set the stage. It's 1970, and the music world is still processing the breakup of the Beatles, the raw howl of Led Zeppelin II, and the gentle afterglow of Woodstock. Meanwhile, in London, a young Greek Cypriot artist named Stephen Dimitri Georgiou, freshly reborn as Cat Stevens after a near-fatal bout of tuberculosis, has already tasted pop stardom with hits like Matthew and Son and I'm Gonna Get Me a Gun. But something deeper is calling. Recovering in an English countryside, he trades orchestral bombast for finger-picked guitars and teen-auto gloss for quiet introspection. He signs to Island Records and teams up with former Yardbird Paul Samuel Smith as producer. The result? A gentle, luminous folk-pop masterpiece that climbs to number 8 in America and eventually moves over 3 million copies. This is one man's quiet revolution. This is T for the Tillerman.
Will you make us laugh? Will you make us cry? Will you tell us when to live? Will you tell us when to die?
Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time, as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're stepping softly into number 269, T for the Tillerman by Cat Stevens. He now goes by Yusef Islam, but at the time, he was still Cat Stevens. Released November 23, 1970, this 35-minute gem is a tapestry of acoustic warmth, spiritual searching, and deceptively simple songs that hit the soul like sunlight through leaves. With iconic tracks like Wild World, Father and Son, and Where Do the Children Play, it's a record that whispers urgent questions about life, love, and the world we're leaving behind. So lower the lights, put on something warm, get cozy, and let's pour some tea for the Tillerman.
I know we've come a long way. We're changing day to day. Tell me, where do the children play?
T for the Tillerman arrived after Cat Stevens' life-altering illness in 1969. Bedridden for months, he taught himself guitar, read philosophy, and began writing songs that felt like prayers. His previous album, Mono Bone Jacone, had already pointed the way. Stripped down, introspective, a total departure from the brassy pop of his teen years. Now, with producer Paul Samuel Smith and arranger Del Newman, Stevens recorded at Morgan Studios and Olympic in London with a small, perfect crew: guitarist Ullum Davies, bassist John Ryan, and drummer Harvey Burns. The sound is intimate yet expansive. Acoustic guitars that ring like bells, subtle strings that never smother, and Stevens' voice, tender one moment, soaring the next. Why is T for the Tillerman so special? Every song feels like it's been around forever and written yesterday at the same time. It opens with Where Do the Children Play?, a gentle protest against progress that's lost none of its bite 50 years later. Then Hard-Headed Woman, a playful yet profound plea for a love grounded in something bigger than ego.
I know many fine fair friends, but the friendliness depends on how you do. They know many surefire ways.
Wild World, originally written for another artist, but he kept it because it was just too good. It became his first U.S. top 20 hit, a bittersweet goodbye that still makes millions tear up at weddings and graduations.
Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. I'll always remember you like a child girl.
And Sad Lisa, with its mournful piano and strings, is one of the most heartbreaking portraits of depression ever put to tape. Quiet, dignified, and devastating.
Lost in a hall, she can't hear me. though I know she likes to be near me. Lisa, Lisa, sad Lisa, Lisa.
Side 2 is where the album ascends into something almost sacred. Father and son, a conversation across generations. It started life in a never-finished musical about a Russian boy who wants to join the revolution while his father begs him to stay. Stevens sings both parts, young and old, in a performance so raw you feel the generational ache in your bones.
But take your time, think a lot. Why, think of everything you've got, for you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not.
Into White, with its dreamlike imagery of snow and silence, is pure winter morning magic. All it's missing is a hot cup of coffee. On the Road to Find Out captures the spiritual hunger that would eventually lead Stevens to Islam, and his departure from music in 1979. And the closing title track. It feels like the Tillerman waving goodbye as the needle lifts, like the album itself is drifting off to plant new seeds somewhere else. The tracklist flows like chapters in a bedtime story you never want to end. Tuesday's Dead brings island bounce and a reminder to live before it's too late. Miles from Nowhere is wide open road philosophy set to a galloping rhythm. But I Might Die Tonight confronts work for hire numbness with startling urgency. And though it's only 11 songs and about 35 minutes, there's not an ounce of fat. Every note serves the mood, and every lyric lands like it was whispered just for you. Thematically, Tea for the Tillerman is one long meditation on what matters. Childhood innocence versus adult compromise. Love versus possession. Faith versus materialism. Released the same year as Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon & Garfunkel, Sweet Baby James by James Taylor, and Deja Vu by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, it fit perfectly into the great singer-songwriter wave, yet stood apart with its almost fable-like quality. Critics adored it, Rolling Stone called it perfect, and it earned Stevens his first Grammy nomination. Commercially, it grew slowly, but steadily, fueled by constant FM play and word of mouth, eventually going triple platinum in the U.S.
Miles from nowhere, guess I'll take my time. Oh yeah, to reach there.
Let's put 1970 in context. The Beatles were done. The world had lost Jimmy and Janis months before the album dropped. Vietnam raged, campuses burned, and a generation was looking for something softer than revolution, but deeper than bubblegum. Into that space walked Cat Stevens with an acoustic guitar and a heart full of questions. Tea for the Tillerman wasn't loud, but it was loud in the way a clear bell is loud, and it cut through everything. Why does Tea for the Tillerman endure? First, the voice. Cat Stevens sings like he's telling you a secret across a campfire. Second, the songs. Simple on the surface, but bottomless underneath. Third, its humanity. It doesn't preach, it invites, expanding to an audience you wouldn't think was possible. The cover still shows up on dorm room walls, a whimsical piece of art by Cat himself, showing a barefoot Tillerman pouring tea under a giant tree while children play. It perfectly captures the album's childlike wonder and ancient wisdom in one brushstroke. Wild World still soundtracks every bittersweet goodbye. Father and son still make grown men cry in their cars or in the theater at Guardians of the Galaxy 2. In a world that feels faster and louder every year, this album remains a place that you can go to slow down and remember what's real. What's the legacy today? As of 2025, Tea for the Tillerman sits comfortably among the most beloved albums in the singer-songwriter era. Certified triple platinum, inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and reissued endlessly on pristine vinyl. Cat Stevens, now known as Yusef Islam, returned to secular music in 2006 and even re-recorded the entire album as Tea for the Tillerman 2, or T for the Tillerman squared, depending on how you read it, back in 2020, proving these songs are truly timeless. To borrow a line he'd later live by, take your time, think a lot, think of everything you've got.
But it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go.
If you haven't listened to T for the Tillerman in a while, do yourself a favor. Put on your headphones, turn off your phone, and let it wash over you from start to finish. New to it, you're about to meet an old friend you didn't know you had. For me, it's the soundtrack of rainy afternoons, long drives home, and every time life asks the big questions, and all you can do is listen. That's it for this edition of Album Archives. If you enjoyed it, please share it with someone who needs a little peace tonight. Next up, we'll be flying high with number 268, pronounced Leonard Skinner. Check out musicrewindpodcast.com/album archives to see where we're at and where we're headed. You can also now get future episodes early on our Patreon or on Apple Podcast subscriptions. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time. Let's set the stage. It's 1956, and rock and roll is no longer a rumor. A 21-year-old kid from Tupelo, Mississippi, with slick-back hair, razor-sharp sideburns, and hips that shake like the devil's own, has already ignited teenage America with hits like Heartbreak Hotel. TV cameras can't contain him, parents are horrified, and Sun Records has just sold his contract to RCA for a staggering $40 grand. In January, he hits RCA's Nashville studios with Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass, DJ Fontana on drums, and producer Steve Scholes at the controls. What they record in those frantic sessions is the first rock and roll album that truly matters. A 12-track explosion blending country heartache, blues grit, R&B swagger, and raw teenage energy into something entirely new. This is Elvis Presley.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show, three to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything but stay over my blue suede shoe.
Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're stepping all the way back to number 264, the self-titled debut from Elvis Presley. Released March 23, 1956, clocking in at just under 29 blazing minutes, this is the shot heard around the world, the record that turned a regional phenomenon into the king of rock and roll almost overnight. With unstoppable cuts like Blue Suede Shoes, I Got a Woman, and the tender Blue Moon, it's raw, sexy, dangerous, and beautiful all at once. So slip on those suede shoes, crank it loud, and let's walk into the birth of rock and roll itself.
Let's go, cat. Oh, walk the dog.
This album didn't ease in, it detonated. Side 1 kicks off with Blue Suede Shoes, the Carl Perkins rocker that Elvis made completely his own. You'll also find the Ray Charles tune I Got a Woman turned completely inside out with hillbilly fire.
Well, I got a woman way across town. She's a good to me. Oh, yeah. Say, I got a woman way across town. She's a good to me. Oh, yeah. She's getting on.
Recorded mostly in 2 frantic days in Nashville, with a quick stop in New York to grab Little Richard's Tutti Frutti and the Drifters' Money Honey, it's a greatest hits package disguised as a debut. RCA simply rounded up his 5 Sun singles on side 2 and let the new RCA sides burn up side 1. The result? The first rock album to hit number 1 on Billboard, staying there for 10 weeks and selling over 1 million copies faster than any album ever had to that point.
Well, that's because you think you're so pretty. And just because your mama thinks you're hot. Well, just because you think you've got something. that no other girl has got. You cause me to spend all of my money.
Why is this record so special? Because it's the moment everything changed. You can literally hear genres colliding in real time. Country twang, gospel moan, blues shout, and R&B swing, all melting into something brand new, rock and roll.
Money, honey. Money, honey. Money, honey.
If you wanna get along with me.
Elvis didn't just sing these songs, he possesses them. Blue Moon turns a 1940s ballad into a haunting croon that sounds like it's echoing from outer space. I'll Never Let You Go, Little Darlin', it drips with country sincerity, while Trying to Get to You is pure, desperate longing. And that voice, part angel, part alley cat, it could shift from tender whisper to feral howl in a single phrase.
I've been traveling over miles, even through the valleys too. I've been traveling in day, I've been running all the way, baby, trying to get to you.
At 21, he already owned every shade of emotion. And full credit to that backing band. It is lean and mean. Scotty Moore's guitar, Bill Black's upright bass, and DJ Fontana's drums, they all kick down the door at RCA sessions. And you also have backing vocals from the Jordanaires, just to add that little sweetness to make the danger feel safer for radio. No overdubs, no frills, just four guys in a room, and a kid who sang like his life depended on it.
If you wanna be loved, baby, you got to love me too. If you wanna be loved, baby, you got to love me too. Oh yeah, cause I ain't for no one-sided love affair.
The cover alone, Elvis in mid-scream pink letters on green and black, became the blueprint for every rock album cover that followed. Thematically, it's pure 1956 teenage scripture. Love, rebellion, heartbreak, swagger, and the promise that something wild is happening right now. It dropped the same year as Presley Mania exploded. Screaming girls, band concerts, Ed Sullivan shooting him from only the waist up. Critics didn't know what hit them. Some called it a plague. Others crowned him as the new messiah of music. Sales said everything, though. It even outsold Sinatra. Let's put 1956 in context. Rock and roll was still considered a fad by the old guard. Frank Sinatra himself called it, and I quote, "the most brutal, ugly, desperate, vicious form of expression it has been my misfortune to hear," end quote. Meanwhile, Elvis was on Milton Berle, Steve Allen, Ed Sullivan, and moving copies of this album by the truckload. It beat the soundtracks to The King and I and Oklahoma all the way to number one. The album launched the rock LP era. Before this, albums were for Broadway or jazz. Elvis proved teenagers would buy them too.
Wop bop-a-loo, wop bop bam boom, tutti frutti, oh Rudy, tutti frutti, oh Rudy, tutti frutti, oh Rudy, tutti frutti, oh Rudy, tutti frutti, oh Rudy. Wop bop-a-loo, wop bop bam boom, I got a gal named Sue, she knows just what to do.
Why does this album endure? Because every rock star since owes this kid something. The attitude, the fusion, the danger, the sex, the joy. It's all right here in its most raw form. Remastered versions still rock, vinyl collectors hunt original pink labeled pressings, and those old Sun tracks still sound like some of the coolest things ever recorded. For me, this is the big bang of rock and roll, the moment the universe expanded.
I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. And if you ever say goodbye, if you ever even try, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you.
The legacy? Man, where to start? It made Elvis the biggest star on planet Earth by the end of 1956, launched 1,000 pelvises, and turns RCA's $40,000 investment into hundreds of millions. The album's in the Grammy Hall of Fame, the Library of Congress, and every greatest albums list that matters. As Elvis himself might say, well, actually he did say, it's one for the money, two for the show.
3 to get ready now, go cat go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything but stay over my blue suede shoe.
If you haven't heard the full album, and many of you might have not, go do that tonight. Put on the mono vinyl if you can find it, or just blast the remaster on your favorite streamer. It's 28 minutes that changed everything. New to it, prepare to understand why your grandparents, or great-grandparents, lost their minds. For me, it's the sound of freedom breaking loose in '56, the day the king was crowned. That's it for this edition of Album Archives, the Vault of Music History. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 263, I'm Still in Love with You by Al Green. Check out the full list at musicrewindpodcast.com/albumarchives to see where we're at and where we're going. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
Let's set the stage. It's the spring of 1989, and a man who should have been dead is very much alive. 3 years earlier, Stevie Ray Vaughan was a ghost. Cocaine and Crown Royal had hollowed him out until he collapsed in Germany and nearly bled to death in a London hospital. Rehab saved him, but no one knew if the fire would ever come back. Then, in studios in Memphis and Los Angeles, with Double Trouble by his side, he plugs in his battered Strat, hits record, and unleashes the most ferocious, clear-eyed, soul-bearing blues of his life. Raw, redemptive, and roaring with life, this is In Step.
Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're tapping into legend with number 262, In Step by Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. Special thanks to Brian Colburn of the My Weekly Mixtape podcast for that amazing guest intro you just heard. Released on June 6, 1989, this 41-minute triumph is the sound of a man reborn, clean, sober, and playing with the ferocity and clarity that most guitarists only dream of. From the barroom stomp of The House Is Rockin' to the heavenly closer of Riviera Paradise. It's the album that proves Stevie Ray wasn't just surviving, he was ascending. So crank your amp, roll the windows down, and let's ride with the baddest bluesman ever to come out of Texas. By 1989, Stevie Ray Vaughan had already lived 3 lifetimes. After the triumphs of Texas Flood, Couldn't Stand the Weather, and Soul to Soul, the drugs and whiskey caught up. In October 1986, he hit rock bottom, checked into rehab that fall, and walked out determined to never drink or use again. In Step is the living proof that he was keeping that promise. Recorded at Kiva Studios in Memphis and Soundcastle in LA, co-produced with Jim Gaines and Tommy Shannon, Chris Layton, and Reese Williams in peak form, this is the first Stevie Ray album recorded entirely in sobriety and somehow twice as powerful. Why is In Step so special? Because it's the rare comeback album that actually surpasses the legend it's coming back to. The House Is Rockin' explodes out the gate like a man who just got his life back. Crossfire, with that killer horn riff and lyrics about addiction's battlefield, became his only top 40 hit. Tightrope is Stevie staring straight into the abyss he crawled out of and daring it to try again.
Walking the tightrope, stepping on the friend. Walking the tightrope, was a shame and a sin. Walking the tightrope, between wrong and right. Walking the tightrope, both day and night.
In Riviera Paradise, 8 minutes of pure instrumental grace that feels like the calm after the storm he'd finally outrun. The whole album is stacked with many unknowns you may not have heard. Let Me Love You Baby rebuilt as a freight train, Leave My Girl Alone played with murderous intent, the funky strut of Travis Walk, and the heavy grind of Wall of Denial. 10 tracks, 41 minutes, 0 fat. The sound is massive yet intimate, Tommy and Chris locked in tighter than ever, Reese's B3 swirling underneath, and Stevie's tone fatter and more expressive than it had ever been. It's no surprise that thematically, In Step is about resurrection. Almost every lyric touches on recovery, gratitude, or that thin line between salvation and disaster. Coming out in 1989, it was a year the old guard came roaring back, and nobody roared louder than Stevie. Critics called it a triumph. It went double platinum and took home the 1990 Grammy for Best Contemporary Blues Album.
You better leave. You better leave my little girl alone. You better leave.
Let's put 1989 in context. Hair metal was dying, grunge was still underground, and blues rock was supposed to be a museum piece. Then this skinny Texan in that flat-brim hat came out swinging harder than anyone half his age, and he reminded the world that the blues was still a living, breathing, ass-kicking force. Why does In Step endure? Because it's the sound of a man who stared death in the face and chose life. He played like every note might be his last. Because Crossfire and The House Is Rockin' still pack dance floors. And because Riviera Paradise remains one of the most beautiful pieces of guitar music ever recorded. What's the legacy today? In Step is the album Stevie Ray Vaughan will always be measured against. The one that he was most proud of. The one that proved sobriety sharpened his edge to a razor. The one that turned out to be his final studio statement. On August 27, 1990, after a great night of music at a guitar festival, trading solos with Eric Clapton, Buddy Guy, Robert Cray, and his brother Jimmy at Alpine Valley, Wisconsin, he boarded a helicopter in thick fog. The chopper never cleared the hill. Stevie, the pilot, and 3 members of Clapton's crew were killed instantly. He was 35. The man who had finally beaten his demons was taken by cruel, random fate at the absolute peak of his powers. And now, 35 years later, In Step still sounds like a victory lap, a thank you letter, and a heartbreaking goodbye all at once. If you've never heard In Step, it's time to fix that. Open the windows, pull out that air guitar, and let the man preach. If you're new to Stevie Ray, this is a great place to start. An old fan, you already know every lick by heart. Either way, turn it up until the neighbors call the cops. Texas blues doesn't get any better than this. That's it for this edition of Album Archives, the vault of music history. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 261, Life After Death by the Notorious B.I.G. Check out the top albums list at musicrewindpodcast.com/album archives to see where we're at and where we're headed. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time. Let's set the stage. It's 1969, and 5 musicians, mostly Canadians with one from Arkansas, have already changed the game. They spent years on the road with Ronnie Hawkins. then moved to backing Bob Dylan through his controversial Electric Era and those mythic basement tape sessions in Woodstock. Then they step out on their own. Their debut, Music from Big Pink, stunned the rock world with its rustic, soulful sound. Now, as they rent a house in the Hollywood Hills, a home once owned by Sammy Davis Jr., they turn the pool house into a makeshift clubhouse studio. No big-name producer polish, just the five guys, producer John Simon, and a shared vision of old America reborn in rock and roll. What emerges is a sepia-toned masterpiece of storytelling, ensemble magic, and rock roots that feel ancient. This is roots rock with heart, history, and a deep, dusty soul. This is The Band.
Up on Cripple Creek, she sends me if I spring a leak. She mends me, I don't have to speak, as she defends me a drunkard stream if I ever did see one.
Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're cracking open number 256, The Band, often called the Brown Album, by The Band. Released on September 22nd, 1969, this 47-minute gem is a near-perfect collection of American myths, characters, and sounds. Civil War laments, working man tales, and front porch harmonies, all delivered with unmatched chemistry. With stone-cold classics like The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, Up on Cripple Creek, and Rag Mama Rag, it's an album that feels like it's always existed, always in every collection, and always waiting for that needle drop. So grab your headphones, turn it up, and let's step into the timeless, earthy world of The Band. By 1969, the original roster was there. Robbie Robertson on guitar and most of the songs, Levon Helm on drums and that unmistakable Arkansas drawl, Rick Danko on bass and fiddle, Richard Manuel on piano and vocals, and Garth Hudson on, well, everything else from organ to accordion. They had all paid their dues. After Music from Big Pink earned quite acclaim, they tried a few New York studios, but it just felt wrong. So they headed west to Los Angeles, rented that Hollywood house, and recreated the clubhouse vibe of Big Pink. Most tracks came together in that pool house, but they were all polished and a final few came together up at the Hit Factory in New York. John Simon produced, played tuba and more, and helped capture that organic, lived-in sound. The result? Every instrument breathes, every harmony feels like family, and every lyric paints a vivid scene.
Across the great divide, just grab your hat and take that ride. Put yourself upright and bring your children down to the riverside.
The album opened strong with several key tracks. Across the Great Divide kicks things off with Rick Danko's warm vocal and that rolling rhythm, setting the tone for an upcoming journey across time and place. Then Rag Mama Rag explodes with Levon Helm's joyful lead, pure ragtime energy, tuba pumping, and those horns swinging.
Rag, mama, rag, I can't believe it's true. Rag, mama, rag, what did you do?
Now we have the centerpiece, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down.
Virgil Caine is the name and I serve.
Levon's voice carries the weight of Virgil Caine, watching the South fall, with that mournful mandolin and Robertson's lyrics that feel like eyewitness history. It's not just a song, it's a story. And regardless of the sides of the blue and gray, it's a story about crushed hope that really hits you in the chest.
The night they drove old Dixie down, and the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na la 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 la.
When You Awake keeps that momentum with Danko's nostalgic delivery, and then Up on Cripple Creek brings that funky, wah-soaked organ groove that became their signature radio breakthrough. Helm's storytelling about Bessie and her trucker life is just irresistible.
When you awake, you will remember everything.
Side 2 dives deeper, where that emotional peak hits. Whispering Pines is Richard Manuel's heartbreaking lament. His fragile voice over that Sterling organ and Helm's harmony, it gives you chills.
I will wait until it all goes wrong with you inside. The lost are found, foghorn through the night.
Jemima Surrender is another playful, seductive turn full of swagger. Rocking Chair, one of my personal favorites, it offers Manuel's weary sailor dreaming of home. That accordion just drifting perfectly through the air.
Oh, to be home again, down in old Virginia, with my very best friend. They call him Ragtime Willie. We're gonna soothe away the rest of our years.
Lookout Cleveland brings Danko's urgent warning of storms ahead, and then Jawbone and the Unfaithful Servant add more character sketches to the story. It closes with King Harvest Has Surely Come. Manuel's farmer praying for rain and relief, a quiet cry against hard times.
A dry summer, then come fall. We try to depend on most of all. Hey, Rainmaker, can you hear the call? Please let these crops grow tall.
12 tracks, no filler, every one a short story, and every performance a conversation. Thematically, the album is a loving portrait of Americana. Old South, rural life, working folks, faded dreams, and the pull of history. It's been called a concept album without forcing it. Songs about division, surrender, harvest, and endurance. Recorded in sunny California, it somehow sounds like it rose straight out of the American soil.
Jemima, surrender. I'm gonna give it to you. Ain't no pretender gonna ride in my canoe.
The production is warm and intimate. Horns, mandolin, accordion, all blended seamlessly. Let's put 1969 in context. A year that didn't just change rock music, but reset it. Woodstock happened that August, 3 days that turned a generation's ideals into mythology. The band did take the stage there, grounding the chaos with songs that sounded older than the festival itself, even if they were famously absent from the film. Led Zeppelin was out there crushing it with Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. The Beatles delivered Abbey Road, their elegant studio masterpiece. The Rolling Stones countered with the dark, dangerous Let It Bleed. Psychedelia was burning out, and something more rooted was taking place. Country rock, rock revival, and music that looked backward to move forward. Into that moment stepped the band, not as trendsetters, but as historians. While others reached for volume and spectacle, they reached for stories of farmers, soldiers, sailors, and working people caught in the gears of history. The album peaked at number 9 on the Billboard chart, hit number 2 in Canada, and Up on Cripple Creek cracked the top 30, but its real impact wasn't measured in singles. Critics immediately recognized it, some calling it an A-plus masterpiece, and over time it became a reference point, proof that rock music could grow up, slow down, and still change everything.
Look out, Cleveland, storm is coming through, and it's running right up on you.
Why does the band endure more than half a century later? First, the songs. These are timeless stories, not abstract poetry, but lived-in tales of labor, loss, love, and survival, sung as if passed down rather than written. Second, the sound. 5 voices blending not for flash, but for feeling, each member stepping forward and receding like a conversation among old friends. You don't hear ego here, you hear trust. And third, the humanity. This is music that's funny, weary, hopeful, and wise. Music that understands history isn't made by heroes alone, but by ordinary people just trying to get through the day. I first found this album by borrowing it from my dad. A worn cassette with a plain brown cover and a band name that felt almost too simple to be true. I didn't know the history yet, or the weight those songs carried. I was just a young 11-year-old who pressed play, and something about it stuck. The voices felt familiar, like people I'd known my whole life. The stories sounded old, but not that distant. The tape never made it back to my dad's collection, and I don't think either of us ever expected it to. It became one of those albums that quietly moves from one generation to the next.
Unfaithful servant, you don't have to say your story. If you done it just for the spite, or did you do it just for the glory?
What's the legacy of this album today? It's a rare gem that didn't just influence artists, it reshaped how musicians thought about authenticity. The album is enshrined in the Grammy Hall of Fame, preserved in the National Recording Registry, and consistently ranked among the greatest albums ever made. Not because it chased the moment, but because it transcended it. Decades later, the same spirit echoes through artists across roots rock, folk, and Americana, from arena legends to modern singer-songwriters cutting their teeth in small clubs. The 50th anniversary editions only reaffirm its staying power, introducing new listeners to songs that feel startlingly alive. Unfortunately, all members of the band have left us. Most recently, Robbie Robertson passed in 2023, and Garth Hudson in 2025. But this magic doesn't belong to the past. It lives in harmony-heavy choruses, communal stages, and albums that value feel over flash. The band didn't just document American history, it became part of it, quietly and permanently. If you've never heard the band front to back, fix that today. Drop the needle, hit play. It's 47 minutes that'll transport you, make you smile, maybe even tear up a little bit. If you're new to it, prepare for the night they drove Old Dixie down to haunt you in the best way. For me, it's not just a classic, it's proof that rock can feel ancient, wise, and forever young. That's it for this edition of Album Archives. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 255, The Last Waltz by The Band. Check out musicrewindpodcast.com for the full list to see where we're at and where we're headed. Early access to episodes is still available on Patreon and Apple Podcast subscriptions. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time. Let's set the stage. It's 1979, and two British musicians who can barely stand each other have just made one of the most joyful albums in rock history. Rick Davies and Roger Hodgson have been writing separately for years. Their personalities so different, their musical visions completely opposed. The engineer in the studio even oddly noted that they were getting along, quote, fantastically well during these sessions, as if it were the exception rather than the rule. They relocated to Los Angeles, recording at the Village Recorder, trying to make something fun after 3 serious, ambitious albums. The result topped the Billboard chart for 6 weeks, sold 20 million copies, won 2 Grammys, and became France's 4th best-selling album of all time. And then it destroyed the band. This is Breakfast in America.
I should have known that it would let me down. I used to dream about this town. It was a sight to see, a place to be, where the living was easy and the kids.
Welcome to Album Archives, the vault of music history, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're cracking open number 252, Breakfast in America by Supertramp. Released March 29, 1979 on A&M Records, this 46-minute gem is one of the great AOR masterpieces. Melodic, witty, meticulously crafted, and stuffed with 4 hit singles that you've all heard before. For listeners that don't know, AOR stands for Album Oriented Rock, and it completely shifted rock radio in the late 70s. FM stations stopped chasing 3-minute singles and started programming full album tracks for adult rock listeners. It was a format built for bands with real musical depth. Bands that could hold your attention for 5 to 7 minutes without losing you. Picture Dr. Johnny Fever kicking back to Goodbye Stranger at WKRP. That's AOR. Supertramp were practically the poster child for it. Sophisticated arrangements, melodic hooks, and songs long enough that the top 40 wouldn't touch them. When programmers needed something that sounded smart but felt good, they put on Breakfast in America. It's the album that turned Supertramp from a respected prog rock band into one of the biggest acts on the planet.
Goodbye, stranger. It's been nice. Hope you find your paradise. Try to see all of you. Hope your dreams will all come true.
By 1978, Supertramp had been at it for nearly a decade. Rick Davies had placed an ad in Melody Maker back in 1969. Roger Hansard answered it, and from there, they built something genuinely unusual. A band with 2 completely different songwriters, 2 completely different voices, and somehow a sound that was entirely their own. Davies brought the blues, the jazz, the grit. Hodgson brought the pop melody, the spirituality, the falsetto that could break your heart. They hadn't actually written together in years, each arriving at sessions with finished songs. By their own admission, they weren't communicating well, but somehow the tension worked. They recorded at the Village Recorder in Los Angeles with co-producer Peter Henderson. No click tracks, no spliced backing, just 5 people playing in a room and every performance live. Then came 7 months of overdubs and 2 more months of mixing. Davies told a reporter that year, "In a way, it's easier to write minor key opuses than a really good catchy pop song. That's not easy at all."
Take a look at my girlfriend. She's the only one I got. Not much of a girlfriend, but never seemed to get a lot. Take a jumbo across the water, like to see America.
The original concept had been an album called Hello Stranger, songs about the relationship and conflict between Davies and Hodgson themselves. They scrapped it. Instead, Hodgson pushed for something fun. Davies eventually agreed. The album opens with Gone Hollywood, Davies' wry portrait of a dreamer who moves to LA and finds it harder than imagined. Then one of the key pillars arrives, the logical song. Hodgson's piano, you got John Hollywell on sax, and lyrics about a childhood full of wonder giving way to a world demanding that you be responsible, practical, logical, clinical.
But then they sent me away, teach me how to be sensible, logical, responsible, practical. And then they showed me a world where I could be so dependable, clinical, intellectual.
It went top 10 on both sides of the Atlantic, and Paul McCartney called it his favorite song of the year. It's followed by Goodbye Stranger, which is Davies at his most infectious, a perfectly constructed AOR track that became a radio staple for decades. Breakfast in America, the title track, is Hodgson's gentle comic sketch of a British outsider dreaming of America, kippers and all. And eventually we have Take the Long Way Home. It's really one of those great driving songs, harmonica cutting through the open road of the whole thing.
So you think you're a Romeo, playing a part in a picture show. We'll take the long way home.
The cover of Breakfast in America deserves special attention as well. Designed by Mike Dowd and Mick Haggerty, it shows actress Kate Murtaugh dressed as a diner waitress called Libby, holding up a glass of orange juice as the Statue of Liberty, with a Manhattan skyline behind her made entirely from breakfast items, cereal boxes, egg cartons, ketchup bottles, all spray painted white. It actually won a Grammy for Best Recording Package, And yes, if you hold it up to a mirror, the letters UP in Supertramp line up with the Twin Towers in a way that spawned 9/11 conspiracy theories for an album released 22 years before the attacks. The internet's wild, man. Thematically, Breakfast in America is a British band's loving, gentle, satirical portrait of American culture. Materialism, the quest for fame, California girls, television, Coca-Cola, Texas millionaires, all filtered through melody and wit. Supertramp always insisted it wasn't meant as satire. Whether they meant that or not, it landed that way, and it landed perfectly. The production is immaculate, warm, spacious, every instrument in its exact right place. Putting the wild time of 1979 in context, disco ruled the charts. Punk was burning itself out. Prog rock had become a dirty word. Only 3 albums that year outsold Breakfast in America. Pink Floyd's The Wall, the Bee Gees' Spirits Have Flown, and Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. In that esteemed company, Supertramp held their own. Why does Breakfast in America endure? Because the songs are simply great. Immediately accessible but carefully constructed, with layers that reveal themselves on repeat listens. Hallowell's saxophone alone weaving through everything. Hodgson's falsetto soaring over Davies' earthy sensibility. The whole album feels like a conversation between two people who see the world differently, but can't stop making music together. Sadly, the conversation ended 4 years later. The 9-month marathon tour that followed Breakfast in America, 120 shows, nearly broke everyone. The sessions for the follow-up became a war of competing visions. Hodgson wanted to keep going commercial, Davies wanted to return to longer, more ambitious work. The resulting album, Famous Last Words, was exactly that. Hodgson's final record was Supertramp, and he left in 1983. The deal they made, Hodgson kept the songs, Davies kept the name. For 5 years, Davies honored it. Then he started playing Hodgson songs anyway. Hodgson felt betrayed. They never reconciled, and now they never will. Rick Davies died on September 6, 2025 at age 81 after a long battle with cancer. The reunion that fans had hoped for right up until the end never happened.
No matter what I say, you'll ignore me anyway. I might as well talk in my sleep. I can weep.
But here's what that bitterness can't touch. The album they made together when everything was clicking. 20 million copies, 6 weeks at number 1. The logical song on the radio every morning for years. Breakfast in America is the sound of two very different people making something neither could have made alone, and not quite knowing it was the last time. I'll be honest with you. As listeners of our Crime of the Century episode know, I didn't come into this as a Supertramp fan, and that's not really Supertramp's fault. Growing up in that AOR era, the logical song was on classic rock radio every hour on the hour. You don't fall out of love with a song so much as you just wear it out. And when a band gets reduced to 3 songs on a loop for 30 years, it's easy to write off the whole catalog. And I wrote off Supertramp. But that's the benefit of what Album Archives has been doing for me lately, forcing me to sit down with full records I thought I already knew. Crime of the Century, and now Breakfast in America, heard front to back, the way they were meant to be heard. Has my opinion of Supertramp changed? Somewhat. I won't lie, my finger still hovers over the skip button when Logical or Goodbye Stranger comes on. Old habits, you know. But those deep cuts, fantastic. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. If you've never heard Breakfast in America front to back, today's the day. It's one of the great pleasures of the late 70s, warm, funny, melodic, and quietly wise. New to it, let it pull you in and enjoy that fantastic harmonica. Longtime fan, put it on and remember why it never gets old. For those building your collection, there's a link in the show notes to pick up that vinyl. That's it for this edition of Album Archives, the Vault of Music History. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Next up is number 251, Doolittle by Pixies. Head over to musicrewindpodcast.com/album archives to see where we're at and where we're headed. If there's an album that shaped your life that didn't quite make the top 300, you can now dedicate an episode of Album Archives to it. Every album has a story, and this is how you tell yours. Link in the show notes. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time. That's it for this rock block from Album Archives. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend or leave a review wherever you listen. Find Album Archives on your favorite listening platform to join us as we count down to number 1. Apple, Spotify, the show is on all of them. You can also find the show on the usual socials to voice your love for your favorite album. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
A podcast from the Sidereal Media Group. Back to you, anchors.